Hi, my name is Aysia Gilbert. I am here with the Samuel Proctor Oral History Program. Today is Friday, July 16th, 2021, and we are here at the Elaine Legacy Center in Elaine, Arkansas. Could you please state your names for the record?
Edward Marshall.
Edward Marshall.
My name is Lenora Marshall.
Lenora Marshall. All right, and then we also have a few other interviewers. Could you all introduce yourselves?
My name is Khoury.
My name is Saja Hussein.
My name is Nushrad Nur.
Hi, I'm Sarisha Boodoo.
My name is Erick Chavez.
And again, thank you all for being here today. So could you guys tell us a little bit about where you were born and when you were born?
Well, I was born in a town that is approximately 26 miles south of Elaine called Snow Lake, Arkansas. That is couldn't start over.
All right.
You asked where I was born.
Yeah.
But I later moved to Elaine after I got married to my husband.
Okay.
And I've been here for about 48 years. We've been married 48 years.
Wow.
Well, I was born here in Elaine, in the Phillips County, and I've been here all my life. And that's about it.
Yeah.
I went to school here in the high school, and I've been around here in Elaine all my life. Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about your family, your parents?
Okay, it's my turn.
Yeah.
In reference to the first question, I said that when I got married to my husband that I was going to be in Elaine 10 or 15 minutes because I was raised in the South and I was going to the city to enjoy city life. But 48 years later, and I'm still here in Elaine. Yes, I was raised on a farm. We owned our own farm there in Snow Lake, Arkansas. It was a family thing. My dad, all of his brothers, we had lands adjacent to each other, and we farmed. We raised cotton, we raised beans, okra, corn. We basically, what you can purchase from the market, we raised it there.
Wow.
My mother had a huge truck patch where she would raise peas and beans and greens, and she was kind of the town servant. You know, we owned livestock, we had cattle and hogs, and so we would kill hogs and we would share with the neighbors, and we would kill cows and send the meat to the cold storage so that they could work it up for us. And so we just had that real farm life going on.
Okay, well, my family was raised here in Elaine, and well, my dad was a farmer. He worked for Missouri Pacific Railroad. Basically, he worked out in the public. My mom, my grandmother, and my 3 older brothers did the farm work. The farm wasn't big enough to support everybody. So my daddy worked out in the public. And then, like Lenora, we raised everything that we ate, basically. And since my grandmother was born in 1882, she knew everything about canning. She canned everything until we got. Well, I don't remember when the electricity that came through in 1949 when we got electricity here. So we got freezers I do remember smoking meat. You know, the old smokehouse. Especially after Thanksgiving, it looked like it was on fire because you wash your meat and you hung it up in the barn, what we call smokehouse, and built a fire and smothered it out and made it smoke. And we smoked our meat. We didn't smoke no fish. We always ate fresh fish. But the pork, the beef was smoked. The vegetables was canned in jars, in mason jars. And my dad was a avid fisherman, a hunter. And my dad, he had poor circulation, and he had both his legs amputated, and I think my dad was around 49 years old when he lost. But then he was an avid fisherman, and that's about it.
But if I may also share an intricate detail about his dad after he became an amputee.
No, you were going on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
After he had become an amputee, it was said that he was doing work on the roof.
Wow.
He was really a man among men. And my dad, to revert back there, my dad served some time as a local policeman.
Wow.
In that small town, and we too raised and stored and preserved canning with the canning, and they had methods of preserving even an onion when you'd separate it, and they would use women's nylons to kind of separate that and hang it out in the house, and the onion would not run. So we did a lot of intense work on the farm. A lot of manual labor.
And is the town that you were from, is that predominantly black also?
Yes, it was predominantly black. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to see if we had any Caucasians at all. But we did in a little subjacent area. Yeah, we did. Yeah, but it was mostly blacks.
Is the land that you two were talking about that was in your families, is it still in your family today?
The land.
Yes, the land that...
Yes, of course. Now, our land, that's down in Snow Lake, we still have our land. The acres that we owned and what was purchased later on, it's still there. My mother was a mother of 14 children. I had 10 brothers, and there were 4 girls. And we were very successful. We were very successful in, I guess, being in a rural area, it kind of allows you to escape the pollution of the city, if I may say that. and you have nothing else to do, but do what you do out on the farm. So of the 10 brothers I have, there were engineers come out of that. My brother was he's very educated, and he has a daughter that's a doctor. And even from our area, not just to speak of my family in particular, but we have doctors, lawyers. I have a brother that's a lawyer. I have a brother that's he chemical and mechanical engineering degree, and so. And the beat goes on. Another brother that was a school teacher. I taught school for years, for 33 years, right here in the Elaine school system. Yeah, and so from that little small area came a lot of successful people. Yeah.
Education was taught coming up. Our parent wasn't educated, and they saw the need. I guess their parent, in the area that they was born in, education wasn't a real factor And as they grew older and started having children, they saw, well, education was going to be important, or valuable assets down the road. So they started teaching you education. And they, learn all you can, but don't can all you learn. And because a lot of things that you learn in life, you're not going to use it. You don't need it. But it's just good to be educated on everything. Yeah, I know a little something about everything. And especially when we came along, since she was a teacher, I worked for the Union Pacific Railroad. Now, when our children came along, we was married 13 years when our first child was born.
Wow.
And
Your marriage.
and I don't know you know anything about chickens or not, but we were just like old setting hens about those children. We wanted to know where they were at all times, what they were doing. When they got out of sight, we panicked. Where are they? Even at home. And when they got school age, they went to school down here at the elementary, and she was at high school, junior high. But anyway, we when they got out of high school, I told my children, I said, look, you're 18, you're not grown.
Turning our doorknob, of course.
Well, yeah.
You're paying the bills.
Yeah, and this is what I told them. I said, well, you're not grown. As long as you sticking the key in the ignition of my vehicle or your mama's, or twisting my doorknob, you're not grown. I said, you're going to college. I said, pick the college of your choice in the state, because I'm not planning on paying no out-of-state fee. And do good. And I said, if you go to school and you got that head on right and bring me some good grades back, I said, your dad ain't gonna buy you a new car. And if they was here, they could tell you I bought each one of them. Well, she bought one. I bought them a new car for incentive for them going to school. All three of them got a college education.
Wow.
I didn't get a college education because somebody had to work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wasn't born with the silver spoon in my mouth.
Right.
I didn't have it like that. So somebody had to work. But at the same time, when I worked for the railroad and she taught school, I made a whole lot more money than she did.
Wow.
And I thank God for it. You know what I'm saying is, I thank God for it. With the high school education, with some college hours,
And you took a trade in
yeah,
carpentry.
yeah.
Shade tree carpentry.
Yeah, and then I learned a lot when we did our house. The gentleman that I was working under, that I hired, was a good guy, good spiritual minded guy, and he taught me a lot of things. So we did good with our children, and like I said, all our children got a college education.
We only have three.
Yeah, we
Yes,
got
we
two.
have two daughters and a son, and they
Yeah.
all completed college. And our son is working at University of Arkansas in Pine Bluff.
In Pine Bluff, yeah,
He's working there.
yeah, he's working for them.
But back then, people did not have the privilege of going to school. Prior to, I guess, our generation, they had to work the farm. Some lived on plantations, and they had to go out and work. And some of our parents didn't have an opportunity to go to school.
No, they could.
They had to make a living.
Then too, you all are too young, and y'all are not from this area. But we had a split school season. I'm pretty sure you.
Could you explain it?
You don't know anything about the split school season. Now, this time of the year, integration wasn't in effect. This time of the year, the black children was in school. The white children was out. But when harvest time come, when picking cotton time was ready, combining beans and corn, the blacks was out of school, then the whites went to school. Okay, then around Thanksgiving, a little bit after Thanksgiving, when the harvest time was done, we went back to school. The whites was out. And, it was so unfair. It was so unfair. That threw the white children would be, in the wintertime, they was at home. And we had to go to school. We had to walk to the school bus. We had to walk through, because all of us didn't live in town where we could walk, 5 or 6 blocks to school. Some of us had to walk a mile and a half, or 2 miles to the bus stop. Bitter cold. Some of the children didn't have coats. Some of them didn't have gloves. And believe it or not, it get below 0 here at times. Wow. But it don't stay, it get down to 0 tonight, and it'll warm up 30 or 40 degrees today, but at night that's the way it was before integration. The last year that I went to high school was the last year. What was the end of that segregation of the schools? It was the last year, and it was mandatory in 1970 and 71 here in Phillips County when the school, it was mandatory that we went to the school down here, which was integrated. Yeah.
Oh, I was just about to say a poem that I committed to memory. The last lines in that poem says, "What a different place today where we live, work, and play." It's so much different now in a lot of ways. The struggle continues. Prejudice and injustice continue. But there are a lot of things that's different. We have come a distance, but we have so far yet to go.
Yes. Well, we do want to thank you guys for your time today. We do have to end a little short, so I do apologize for that. But if there's anything else that you guys want to leave us with, some final remarks, it was really great to hear your experiences.
Well, I think the entire interview may have been based on what we did not get to, which was the 1919 massacre, where people were treated unfairly and unjustly because they were trying to get better wages for their crops. And today, the struggle is real. It continues. We had injustice back then. It's still manifesting itself. Injustice is still manifesting itself in different forms. So we still got a long ways to go. And we have a short time to get there. We use the term Black Lives Matters. We know all lives matters. And if we can grasp that concept, we'd be living in a better world today.
Yeah. Well, just for in the time that we lived in those times back then. It was a struggle. It was a struggle because a lot of the jobs that you had was hard, back-breaking jobs. you can go on a job and train this white guy to do what you've been doing for years.
Mm-hmm.
He turned out to be your foreman or your
He's
supervisor.
over you.
He's over you, and you taught him everything that he knew about the job. And she was just telling me this morning, she was reading where back in the day where the blacks did all the hard work, all the nasty jobs.
In the Army.
Right.
Everybody's
Army.
giving their,
Yeah,
serving their country.
yeah.
And the Caucasians are sitting on the fence
Watch
while
it.
the blacks
Yeah.
are bogged down in the mud.
Yeah.
On the front lines.
Yeah.
History does repeat itself.
It repeat itself. And and my dad was in the military. My dad was a horse soldier. And he was telling me, he said when we would take food out in the field where the training was going on, the blacks took it out there. But then when they got ready to serve the foods, the blacks had to go over here
Wow.
and eat while the whites was over. They,
Yeah.
yeah.
And may I say,
Yes, ma'am.
that I'm an evangelist. I love the Lord. And one of the things in Ecclesiastes, the preacher, he said there is nothing new under the
Nothing
sun.
new.
And
Nothing
it
new.
continues to be so. It's just nothing new.
Yeah, because she hadn't heard of it, that didn't mean it hadn't happened.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, there's nothing new.
Yeah.
But lots of people lost their lives here.
Yes.
A lot of people.
Lots of bodies. They lost land.
Everything.
There was so many. I think we had the worst history. It's bad when you compare life with life. All lives matter. But I think by far, Elaine's massacre was the bloodiest. Yeah. People lost their lives. Dumped in massive graves.
Wow.
Yeah, land stolen.
Yeah.
Houses burned, ran off their land. People would work all year, and the boss man would tell them, you just almost got out.
You almost made it.
Yeah.
So that
They
means
would pencil whip them.
Wow.
you had to go back to the company store. Most plantations had company stores, had everything you need in it.
So you charged it.
So you charged it. You charged $300, you pay $600. Yeah. So that's the way they kept you in bondage first.
Right.
The money was. Yeah. And you couldn't say, well, I don't owe you this much. Well, you called in Mr. So-and-so a lie. You had to say no.
Wow.
You understand what I'm
couldn't
saying?
defend yourself in these situations.
Beg pardon?
You couldn't even defend yourself.
No,
in
ma'am.
these
No, ma'am.
situations.
You couldn't even defend yourself. If he said you did it, by grab, you did it. That was the bottom line. Yeah.
Well, thank you both for your time, and thank you for sharing just a part of your story. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, that's just a
And-
part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you for giving us this privilege.
Of course. And thank you for giving us the privilege of listening to you.
So since we're continuing, can you maybe then tell us a little bit more about your childhood and how it was growing up where you were? And maybe you said the towns were segregated already, but maybe your experiences with any discrimination as well.
Well, as a childhood growing up, we attended school that was not like the regular school today. You had one large room, that's how we started off, having school in a church. And one teacher might have 30 to 40 students in that room, all age levels. So they had to master all of that. Could you imagine the first grade and the third grade and the 10th grade and your seniors are all in? That's the way we started out. And then we later moved to our actual school building, which was, I think it was a 4-room school building. And where it was called the Khoury School, and that was approximately 5 miles from where we lived. We started out riding in a truck. Students were hauled in a truck, and you would get into, some could ride in the cab and some would ride in the back with a boxed-in structure overhead. And we started out without any lunches, any hot lunches, and eventually moved to serving students hot lunches. Now, I was a student at that time, not a teacher. And prejudice in the town, yes, we experienced quite a bit of prejudice. We were segregated at that time. The whites and blacks had not started attending the school together. And my parents, I remember my parents having experienced some prejudice things, even with stores where they had to charge, and stores where the same owner that owned the store owned the gin. So when we had to haul our cotton to the gin to be gin, they would have to pay you for cotton seed. And sometimes they would make you wait a long time. But I had 10 brothers, and my brothers were not willing to tolerate what my parents had tolerated all through the years. So they spoke up, and of course it made the older people nervous because they were not used to talking to the Caucasians, saying, you're standing up for their rights. I work, I bring my cotton to the gin, I want my money. I don't want to wait 2 weeks. I want my money as soon as you get through ginning the cotton. And of course they kind of established that. It was kind of a little rough season through there, but they established the fact that they wanted the money. And I had an uncle who was really afraid of Caucasians. He just wouldn't talk about it. He would nudge his nephew and say, you can't talk. They said, I want my money. When the cotton is ginned, I want to be able to pick up my seed money. And he would say, you can't tell them that, you can't do that. And so finally, the white man told my uncle, he said, this is a new generation of kids, and you can't treat them like you did the older ones. So let's go on and pay. But he told me, don't you tell anybody, but we're going to give it to you, so don't you tell anybody else. From time to time, we kind of experience something, but and I'll let my husband tell his story. His dad was a stand-up man, and my parents were very firm people, very loving, caring, cooperative people, but they didn't take too much junk. You know, they would pretty much tell you where to get off that. How much they were willing to tolerate, you could only take them so far. And by them doing that, we didn't experience a lot of the things that other people experienced. But I remember one time my brothers, they said that this was the man who had built our new home. My mother persevered, her and dad, and we got a new home built. And my brothers were headed back to college, and they went and knocked on the man's door that lived here in Elaine.
They had a car, the car broke down.
The car broke down?
They needed a car part.
Okay. So, now I think this man, they were thinking, they were brothers. One brother had a business of auto parts, another sold lumber. And I don't know if they went to the Wright brothers' house, but they did go to the brother's house that helped build our house. And they knocked on the front door. They just beat on the front door, and he went out. So they went back to the car, and as they started to get in the car, the gentleman came to the side door and called them back. And when they came back, they said, you know you don't go to a white person's front door, ever. I'm sure he went on and waited on them. And I'm sure if they had any options, they would have just walked off and not requested that service. But, you know, not having any other options, they accepted, and he did help them. But there have been quite a few, and it was just the man too much of your time. I'll share one other thing. I was thinking on last night that my mother was extremely friendly with people, and she fed black and white. So many Caucasians sat at her table, and she fed them prime ribs because we steaks. Now I ate better back then than I do now. Yeah, and she was an excellent cook, and they loved her cooking. Some people would drive a distance just to even eat rolls that she prepared. And these people would come all the time, but after my father passed, I told my mother, I said, I want you to be extremely careful because I don't trust people. They are not as genuine as they, oh, she said, they are so sweet and loving, and they come and they eat vegetables with me and they this and that. I said, but you still have to be careful. But to fast forward with that, they end up robbing her. And they beat her. And it was so horrendous. She lived with that, I believe, the rest of her life. That was maybe like 1994. And she always was fearful from that point on. And even though they call themselves robbing her and they beat her, but they never got all her money. I don't know how she held out. I would have probably said, take it all. But they did that. And she did not want us to know, her children. She said she had 10 sons that would have taken this person out on sight, but she did not want them to be in trouble. And she wouldn't tell, but the information leaked out who it was. But we found out later on that one by one, bad things happened to all of those people who attacked her. Bad people happened. I mean, bad things happened to those people. So you reap what you sow. What you plant comes up. Yeah.
Right. So you grew up in Elaine and you grew up outside of Elaine.
Right.
Can you talk about how Elaine's history, more so the massacre, was taught to you? Was this something that you heard about in, the education setting, or did your family speak to you about it?
No, it was not taught to us in school. It was taboo.
Right.
You did not. I don't know why our history teacher did not mention Elaine, Arkansas, as far as race riot. Now, my grandmother lived 3 miles from Elaine during the race riot, and it was 11 months before my dad was born. My dad was born in October 1920, and the race riot was 1919 in September. Now, my grandmother said that the Caucasian was going around, everybody worked in the fields. So they was going around taking guns from the women when their husband left and went to work. That's how they was defenseless.
Right. They were disarmed.
They didn't have nothing to fight with. Okay, so and after that, they just ran over the blacks, just did what they wanted to do. They didn't have nothing, they didn't have no defense. Yeah.
If I may rewind back to the initial problem, is when the farmers had gotten together in a church at Hoopsburg, which is approximately how many miles from
Probably about 5 miles. Y'all passed by it coming here.
And they were organizing a union to try to see if they could send their cotton elsewhere to get
Higher price.
better wages. Yes. And as a result, someone kind of leaked out, and then the wrong information got out that they were down trying to plot against the whites.
Right.
And when that special agent came down to check it out, I guess the people who were meeting anticipated a problem. So apparently they were armed. And when the agent came and they made a shot into the church, Then they start shooting back, and this special agent got killed. Well, of course, when this, which was white, and when he got killed and the news was spread abroad that what had happened, people came from everywhere, Mississippi, Tennessee, all the subjects around.
Yeah, all the states came out of Oklahoma,
Louisiana.
Texas, Louisiana. But see, because they had access to Elaine, the railroad. See, the railroad came through here from St. Louis, and you had what we call crossovers, and so they could get on a train. They can get on a train in Texas and come all the way here. So they just came here to stop the blacks, to put the blacks back in their place.
To make an example of.
To make an example, yeah.
The Caucasians.
Yeah, we gonna come and take care of this. Then to top it all, and to really top it off, what really that I don't understand, the governor came down. Back then we didn't have National Guards, so the army came in. The governor got the army from Little Rock, sent them in here to stop the fighting. All right, the unarmed black men that was hid in the woods, that in the swamps, and the cane brakes, when they saw the soldiers coming,
They felt relief.
they said, "Well, this relief for us.
Help is arrived.
Yeah, we got some help." They came out.
But the reverse of that held true. Instead of
They came out. The soldiers shot them down just like the other white people was doing. There wasn't no help. Other words, the whites stuck together and to put the black folks back in their place. So they shot them down.
many lives were lost.
Unarmed men. Only thing they wanted to do was give themselves up, go back home to their families. I worked with guys in different towns that their relatives left Phillips County, left Elaine, moved to other places and changed their name.
Change their last name so they would
Changed
not
their
be
name
recognized.
so it would be recognized.
As
All
being
right.
linked to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very
No,
terrible.
and back to your question, no ma'am, it was not taught in high school. They would not talk about it. If you didn't know some black person that had a relative, well, back then, and you see it in the history books now, but it's just the reverse a little. It's just the reverse of what happened.
Actually happened.
They said in history books that the blacks was plotting to kill the white folks. That wasn't the way it was. The white folks killed the black folks because they wanted a higher price for their cotton. It's just that simple. That was the bottom line. Wasn't trying to take nothing from nobody. Only thing they wanted a fair price. We had what you call cotton buyers in the country. Mr. So-and-so will come by your property, look at your crop. He was experienced at this. Look at your crop. Well, you gonna make 20 bales. In other words, what we call today in farming booking. When you book a crop, you you say, well, I'm gonna make 10,000 bushels of beans. You book those 10,000 bushels.
Estimating.
Yeah, a guesstimation for $10 a bushel. If you don't make 1,000 bushels, you pay the difference. Back then they had what you call cotton buyers. Like I said, you gonna make 20 bales. I'll give you X number of dollars a pound for your cotton. Way below what he can take it to Helena and sell it for. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he making money off of you, and the only thing that he done was just told you what he was going to give for it, and that's what the blacks was trying to cut out. They were trying to cut that middleman. The middleman was making. He was making the guy that was doing the buying was making more money than the guy that was doing the farming.
Exactly.
And the blacks caught on to that and said, well, look, if he can take our cotton 25 miles up the road and sell it for X number of dollars, why can't I take mine up there and sell it?
Exactly.
And when they found out that that's what them black farmers was going to do, no, you can't do that.
It's
Then it
not
turned-
about the loss of money or gold.
It just
fight for it.
yeah, it just turned into a fight.
And you wonder how Snow Lake is connected with Elaine. Just 26 miles or less down the road. We had to do all our business here.
Yeah, 'cause
At one time, this was a flourishing town.
oh yeah.
People walked the streets thick as hasty pudding.
Yeah.
Houses everywhere. Businesses were here.
Oh,
We had theaters
everything
here.
was open.
We had a theater here. We had a pharmacy here. We had 2 doctor's offices here.
And we had four gins. Where we gin cotton. We had two granaries. We had mechanic shops. This in my boyhood, and this is Snow Lake is in D.C. County. It's a different county, but you guys are not from this area. Once you get down to Snow Lake,
You can't go any further.
you can't go no further.
We couldn't do business. We're the tail end.
Yeah,
We're the,
yeah.
we're
Even
the north end.
yeah,
Phillips.
yeah. Even to this day, when you get to Snow Lake, you got to come down and come back.
So the grocery stores were here.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
things that we needed.
Uh-huh.
The
Yeah.
clothes cleaners, everything was right here.
And the railroad was the only thing that went through to the south side of the county. So then when they took the railroad up, you don't have no access to the south side of the county unless you come back through Elaine, go 45. It's 100 miles you got to go around to get to the other side of the county where she lived. So the people down in that area, and a lot of folks, they had to come through here. They had to come through here. All right, I'm through.
Thank you for answering my question.
You're mentioning things that were here before the massacre. Can you kind of talk about what maybe your grandparents and parents told you, like prosperous, how prosperous the area was and what it contained?
How was it?
How prosperous it was and what was going on?
Well, it was prosperous, but
People owned their own land.
on their own land, yeah.
Lots of blacks.
Yeah. It was prosperous, but the thing about it, when they found out that they could make more money from their crops, that's what they wanted. And the whites wasn't going to stand for it, because I've been doing this for 50 years, living off of you, all the farmers, all the black farmers that own their own land. I've been cheating you. That's how I've been making my living. Now all of a sudden it's gonna stop? No.
Businesses.
Yeah.
Blacks
Yeah.
own their own business.
Yeah.
That's what happened to Richard Wright. You know, he owned his own business and somebody else wanted it, and he was killed because he refused to surrender. You sell me this,
Or else.
you know.
Yeah.
And so, yes, the land is rich. And they had lucrative businesses, very successful black owned businesses. And after the massacre, some people
Just left.
were killed, some left. Some lost their land because they were working the boss that at the end of the year, so you're still in debt. And someone shared a story with me where a man, a Caucasian, walked up and told another Caucasian, "Don't you let him borrow any money, 'cause he owes me, and he won't pay me. Don't you?" Told the bank, "Don't let him borrow money." So he couldn't pay. So the only thing, if you can't pay me, then I'm after your goods. What is it you own that I can use as collateral or in the place of? So people lost business.
Yeah, they lost business.
And some were threatened.
Now
And they left.
They left. Now you guys are going into law. It's legal to foreclose in the state of Arkansas. If you owe me $100, you can't pay me my $100. You got a pair of shoes on worth $125. I'll take them. It's legal. And that's what they did then. They let you borrow. You couldn't pay it back. Well, you got to give me my boards. In other words, you move. And in this area, it is legal. If I live on your farm, I owe you $500. Me and you get into it and we can't make it. She got a house and she want to let me move in hers. You got to pay my debt to her before I can move. Oh, I tell you,
They had all kind of strategies.
they got all. They had all.
Keep people down.
They had all.
They could
Like you said, they had all kind of strategies for us to keep us down. Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of intricate details of injustice and horrible things that happen.
Then,
And
yeah.
there were, it's been said that, and we know the soldiers came in, not in our defense. And we know that Governor Bo didn't have our best interests at heart, sending people in, but the truth has been twisted a lot.
Oh yeah.
My dad come from a large family. My mother come from a large family. And so we had relatives alleged that died in that massacre. So I had a lot of relatives living right here in Elaine at that time. And there were some people who were snatched up and killed. They tell me when they got off the train, but there were a few kind Caucasians, somebody somewhere always has a heart, that spoke up for some of the blacks, and they escaped. By the same token, there were some that didn't have anyone to speak up for them, and their lives were destroyed. And I'm told that a lot of people from other places came and killed blacks here. But there were a few Caucasians who kind of hid some blacks out in the schoolhouse and in various places. There was a family that I'm told hid blacks down in their basement. They helped them escape.
Y'all come in, you see this big 3-story house here, up here? That house, they hid blacks in their basement to save them from the draft. Yeah.
The one out by the road?
Yes, ma'am. Wow. Yeah. What, a little bit before you get to the stop sign there, the house. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there were those who were put in jail, saying that they had done wrong and they were the one who were wronged. And sometimes, because you lived on Mr. Joe's plantation and you're a good worker, he'd come to jail and say, "You release him to me." You know, because he had to depend on him to help get his crops out.
Yeah.
So it's just so much. The story can't be told in one day. But we tread on bloody sores. The land needs to be healed. And it's just a story that a lot of people have not heard, the terrible things that has transpired right here in Elaine. I'm told that people's bodies were thrown in the river. And a man just shared with me, I'm in a church convention.
Night before last.
I'm in a church convention and I came home to be here and I'm really supposed to be back there because the duration is Sunday afternoon when it'll be over. But he was telling me that he had a friend a Caucasian friend, that was sent down to Elaine to help shoot down the blacks. And they would use the term, I'm going coon hunting. So they were going to shoot down this black. But when they got here, we did have some blacks that retaliated. And so they shot him dead on sight. So there were some whites who lost their lives, but most.
Yeah. Now,
Mostly.
you got to understand. It makes me angry that you talk about this. But as a kid coming up, I knew a white guy, Arthur Bernard. You don't have to write that name down. That my dad told me that he had a church full of women and children. The churches, when you're going out of Elaine, when you go around that curve, here's a brick church now, he was a wood church back then. That he had this church full of children, women and children, and was going to set it afire. And the soldiers made him not do it. I knew him. I knew him. Well, I've been with her 48 years, and we dated 6 years before that. But I knew him.
They're gonna think we're old, honey.
But I knew him real well. Then a black man that killed a lot of whites. I knew him. That was the only two that I knew that was in that massacre. Now the black man couldn't say nothing about his because he couldn't trust his black brother not to say nothing about it because the black brother was the one that went back and told the white folks what was going on at the black meeting. You understand what I'm saying? Just like it is now. We might as well just lay the cards on the table. Black folks don't trust black folks. Back when I was a child, black folks just come up and go to talking. 4 or 5 white folks stand up, and he'll walk up, just go to talking. He'll tell on you. He'll tell on everybody, then he'll turn around and tell on his own self. He was just in them. He was just in us to why I don't know.
One fact that I'd like to share, that was shared to me the other night, where the gentleman was saying someone had come back and told him that they had been to Elaine and had been out in the woods, and blacks was lying dead everywhere out there.
Oh yeah.
In the woods. So they did a lot of killing. But anyway, I'm grateful that I don't have hatred in my heart. I think all of us, we are sewn together with a common thread. All of us have red blood running through our veins.
Yeah.
And whatever people did back then, God has the record.
He got the record.
Held accountable.
Held accountable.
And I'm just grateful that I don't have any hatred in my heart. I really try not to think about the things that happen because it saddens me. How can anyone who is human do such dehumanizing acts? It baffles me. It really does. But a lot did take place on these soils. And we've had a program entitled Healing the Land here. Because we tread on bloody fields, we are working toward people overcoming and even overcoming the fear that lingers. 1 century ago, 100 years ago, is when this transpired, and people are still in fear. They're afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.
They have the hush mouth approach, and you start talking to them, they start looking around to see who's listening. That's a devastating act for fear to last that long and be in the hearts of people. So
Yeah, and the people they wasn't even here. and they still fear. Yeah, wasn't even born, but they fear that massacre that happened in 1919.
But I don't think that we have to dwell on that. It's good for children to know the history. No, they didn't put that in the book. And I'm not really sure, we're talking about it now. And I'm not really sure what kind of problem that will ignite. I remember they had this Roots. Y'all remember the story Roots? Yeah. They were playing Roots that week, and I had this little Hispanic student, long, beautiful eyelashes. He was just a handsome little boy. He'd come in, and his eyelashes was drenched with tears. And I said, "Oh, precious, what has happened to you?" And he told me, he said, "This little black boy slugged me." I said, "Why did he slug you?" He said, "He slugged me because I called him Toby." I said, "Oh my goodness, you asked for it, didn't you?" I said, "But we're going to see about what we can do about that." But then anyway, I went on to share with him how regardless to what happened back then, we are to love each other and have respect for each other.
Yeah.
Treat each other as humans.
Yeah.
And then he sang that song to me, the Bible. That's the book for me. I stand upon the word of God, the Bible.
Yeah.
He sang that song. But there are certain things that can ignite a problem, stir it all over again, stir it up. And I'm not sure if they taught, maybe that's why they're apprehensive about teaching this history, that it would cause a reenactment of it. I'm not sure. Sometimes you just need a sense of direction, and you need to kind of think things through before, I use the term, put your brains in gear before your mouth take off. So sometimes you just have to think things through and analyze, to see what is the best route. And maybe there's a way that history can be taught without a lot of gross details. Just give them a touch of it or something. I don't know. I wish I had the answer.
I wanted to actually ask you about that, since you said that you were a teacher for about 30 or so years here in Elaine.
Right.
How was it, having the knowledge and the history about the Elaine massacre and the history of Elaine? How did you kind of convey that to students, or did you not at all?
Different field.
I was not a history teacher, so I wasn't held accountable to do that. And I did not, if they did not get that in the regular teaching in the history and sciences where they could have, got thorough information, then I didn't deal with that aspect of it. I worked with the remedial group. My first degree was in home economics education. Then I received a master's in special education. And I love dealing with the underprivileged and the base, set base, children who were struggling. And I was able to bring children up who were reading on a second grade level to grade level, which was 7th and 8th grade. That was my focus. And I don't know how the children that I dealt with would even conceptualize this information. So I did the basic reading, writing, context clues, listening skills, whatever I thought was functional. You got the educable, you got the trainable, and you got the totally dependent. And I took those who were said to be trainable and they became educable. I focused a lot on that. Had a great success in dealing with the children. I was very proud of my work. But no, I didn't teach that. I always taught respect for human life, respect for people. They were not allowed to down each other because one had more than the other, or not demonize or be a bully because you are physically stronger than. And I focused on those life skills, how to be functional And I managed to do a relatively good job with it. I see in some places they have a lot of bullying. I didn't deal with that. Even before we went to uniforms, I did not allow those who wore name brand clothing to put other people down. So I was very successful in that. But we didn't. That wasn't the group that if I were going to teach it at all, I wouldn't necessarily try to work with them on that.
I'm sure your students really appreciated everything that you taught them and those important life lessons.
Listen, I'm a member of the Quorum Court, and every year that I run, there's a white friend.
Could you explain what that is?
That's fine.
Could you explain what that is that you're a part of really quick?
I'm a member of the Phillips County Quorum Court,
Justice of the peace.
and I'm a justice of the peace.
Wow.
And so there is a Caucasian friend that we have that owns a jewelry store in Helena who tells everybody you can't win the election against Miss Marshall because she has all these students that love her and support her. I don't know if there's any validity to that statement, but they are supported. Yeah.
That was really amazing. And you two both mentioned the church a couple of times. I just wanted to ask, like, what was the role that religion played here in Elaine growing up, for you growing up, and then for you as you've lived here in the past, like, 40 or so years?
Well, my role started as a very little girl with my mother, where I sang in the choir. And I did most of the leading in the choir coming up. And then in later years, after I become an adult and moved here in Elaine, I worked as a Sunday school teacher, and I still do. I went from the local work in my church to the district work, which I become. I've served as an elect lady for the youth department. I've served as president, vice president, and president. Vice president at one time, president at another time, of the evangelist department. And part of the district choir, I've just been involved in church work. And not just having a mind to go to church, but exemplify Christ in my everyday life, like having church in me, as opposed to just me being in church.
Yeah.
Yeah, I strive to let my life be the mirror that reflects the image of Christ. They had that band, WWJD. Y'all remember that? What would Jesus do? So he didn't go around cursing and slaying and hating, but he healed and he loved. And that's what I try to do. And he can tell you what he served, what part of the church he served in.
Well, in the Pentecostal church that we belong to, Kojic, Church of God in Christ, I'm pretty sure you haven't heard about Kojic. I am the superintendent of the Sunday school. I'm a deacon at the head deacon at the church.
District-wise.
District-wise, I am the head deacon, president of the deacon board.
Which entails, I'm sorry.
I got what 16 churches. That's 16 churches. Yeah. And the question that you asked about religion, you know, God took one blood and made all nations. One blood, He made all nations. So then, you know, we the things that been done to us and done to our parent, our grandparent, we normally, under normal circumstances, you have hatred in your heart toward people. Not hatred because of you hadn't done anything to me. But just Caucasians. Just think about the things that was done.
Yeah. May I interrupt you? People have what is called misplaced blame.
Yeah.
Somebody else did it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But you're in that same category. You're Caucasian too, so I'm going to get you. They have that mentality.
Right.
I hate all women, and so if something went wrong in a relationship and now I no longer want women, when I see you, I'm striking out at you. And that's that misplaced blame.
Misplaced blame.
Yeah.
But
a lot of people get beat and killed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But the thing about it though, we are as black people, we are forgiving people. We forgive.
Some of us.
Some of us. And if you got a level head, you forget, because we realize that the thing that the Lord forgave us for, He told us He'll cast it first. The east is from the west. Now, you college students, how far is that? How far is the east is from the west?
No one can know. No one.
No one can know. So then when He forgive us and we believe that God forgive you, you forgive your fellow man also.
I wanted to share one thing, and forgive me for I've been doing it all the time.
And we got to go too.
Yes, yeah, but I thought about when we were talking about men going into the homes while the husbands was out in the field working and taking guns. His granddaddy had a gun. He was out in the pumpkin patch.
Potato patch, sweet potatoes.
Okay.
He hid his gun.
He hid his gun. They couldn't get his gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And see the one reason the history. I don't have a lot of history about my grandparent. My granddaddy was from Tallulah, Louisiana. And I don't know what year he moved here. When you was a child, you don't question your parent about why Papa was here and why did he move from down there up here and left his family. Why did my grandmother came from Kosciuszko, Mississippi, when she was 18 years old, and this was in 1889. And why did she come from Kosciuszko, Mississippi, to Wabash, which is 3 miles over here? Why? Did they have to run off? Why was my granddad up here? He left all his family down there. But you don't when you're the child, you don't know to ask these questions. Now I was just wondering why this. Okay, we're gonna go. And I had an old friend. He was from Alabama, and he ended up here in Arkansas, which is 8 miles from here, Lakeview. His daddy had a stud horse. All the white folks wanted him. He wouldn't sell it. So the man that wanted the horse sent the town's bully out to his farm to take it. So you don't know what a singer tree is. It's that little wooden bar that hooked to the horse, that hooked to the wagon, that the horse pulled the wagon with. It's about this long with hooks on both ends of it, and you hook one end to one hook to the wagon, and you hook the other hook to the horse, and the horse pulls it. So this black guy took the single tree and beat those white guys pretty bad with them. one of them got away. So he was going to go back to town and tell the other white folks what had happened. And he knew he had to run. So he goes in the house. He said his daddy came in the house and told his mama, get some food and clothes that you can carry. Go. And he told him what had happened. He don't know, he passed away now. But at the time, he said he don't know if his daddy lived or he got away. He said they slept in the cotton fields in the daytime and they traveled at night. And that's how they got to Arkansas. And I don't know if my grandparent had to run from Mississippi and from Louisiana to get here. I don't know, but it's a lot of horrible stories out there. And you got to be black to know how I feel. Yeah, you got to be black to know how I feel about the whole situation. Yeah.
Did you say you need to leave, or did you mention you needed to go so we know?
Yes, I've got to contact the prayer group.
Okay.
I'm in the middle of this convention.
Okay. You've given us so much amazing information. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, thank you.
No,
Thank you
so
for
much.
having me. They have kind of like Queen of Sheba. When she came to check out the information about the king, she said the half has not been told. And it's true in this case, the half has not been told.
No.